Hi, and welcome to highlights from Day 2 of the 21st Biennial Convention of the American Postal Workers Union. I'm Celeste Crenshaw. Members of the APWU are coming together at a historic time for the Postal Service. A congressionally manufactured crisis has led to the shutdown of hundreds of facilities, and more than 100,000 jobs have been eliminated, with more severe cutbacks planned. In communities across America, the men and women of the APWU have rallied to save postal facilities and preserve quality service. We're going to tell these stories, starting with the successful effort by postal workers in the city of New Orleans. Postal management announced plans to consolidate their processing plant, abandoning the community and eliminating scores of jobs. With their city still recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans postal workers weren't about to let that happen.
New Orleans is a much larger processing plant, and just to consolidate it into the Baton Rouge facility just didn't make sense. And then we got a hold of the study. Once we looked at the numbers on the study actually showed only 11 people from New Orleans moving into Baton Rouge. So now what do you do with 1,400 people and there's only 11 spots? So we knew something was up. A lady from the bar community, she just simply said that they count on time-sensitive mail. They count on mail to be delivered when it's supposed to. And there's probably 10,000 lawyers in the state of Louisiana. Well, 50% of them reside right there in downtown New Orleans where they practice. So once she got that information out and she told her friends, members from the aviation board came with the specifications of the airport and how just larger planes couldn't land in Baton Rouge, which is 80 miles away. And they did the numbers, and then the mayor, he got out and he just said that, hey, we need to keep those jobs right there in New Orleans because the New Orleans economy is growing. So with that in mind, he brought some members from the Chamber of Commerce, and things started happening. We had the Occupy New Orleans movement right across from City Hall. So they were there probably for another for 3 weeks prior to our little town hall meeting. So we got with them and sort of brought some of them to our meeting because we shared the same goal. We wanted to keep jobs in New Orleans. We wanted to get the attention or the spotlight on New Orleans. So once word got out, it was out. We had a packed meeting, and I think everyone voiced their opinion, and we got a listening ear. So I think we were successful, and I think just by organizing the community and our membership that we got our point across. Well, I think we showed the Postal Service and the country that we're willing to fight for ours, and this is just the beginning, and we're not going to be finished until they've let us know that they're finished. So when the call arises, we'll be there for it.
In 2010, the APWU and the Postal Service signed a 4.5-year contract that made progress in several areas. It requires postal management to restore work being done by supervisors and restricts contracting out. Director of Industrial Relations Mike Morris says he is most proud of the provision that imposes strict limits on excessing.
The previous contract, hundreds of our members were being excessed literally hundreds of miles, 300 miles, 500 miles, 600 miles, leading up to this contract, which really tore families apart. People are having to make a decision. Does my spouse have to quit his or her job? Do I have to take my kids out of high school when they're in their 10th or 11th grade year? Do I have to leave an ailing parent? And they were having to make these decisions. Some of them had to quit because they couldn't afford to move hundreds of miles. We put a 50-mile limit on excessing in on this contract, and as of this date, not one APW represented employee has been excessed beyond a 50-mile radius. And that is the single thing that has made me most proud from this contract. That is a singular achievement.
The contract creates a new category of work, non-traditional duty assignments, commonly called NIFTs. On Tuesday, the Labor Management Committee reported on resolutions. Many dealt with the interpretation and impact of the NIFT provision, as well as other new aspects of the contract. Delegates debated and voted on several measures that will provide direction for the union's leadership as they administer the current contract and prepare to negotiate future agreements. Morris said the level of discussion is not surprising given the magnitude of the changes.
Promises were made by the Postal Service in that contract, and we represent our contract to our membership. They ratified it based upon expecting the Postal Service to live up to it. So when they don't live up to the parts of the contract, it makes it difficult. We had a new category of duty assignments in this contract that are called non-traditional duty assignments, which would allow the Postal Service, along with input from the union, to create duty assignments that are other than the traditional 5 8-hour days. Now, the Postal Service, there are some things that they had to do to make sure that those jobs were desirable and that sort of thing, and they have basically not followed the contract. And that's because these disputes are so fact-bound. In other words, every office is different. It's hard to get a handle on it, and it's just been a constant battle for us to try to enforce our agreement.
Morris says the goals of postal management became crystal clear when, shortly after signing the new contract, Postmaster General Patrick Donahoe went before Congress seeking permission to overturn key provisions.
What has been really illustrative about the action that the Postal Service, that the PMG frankly took, is it illustrated how important it is for our members to be involved on the political scene, because whatever we negotiate, the PMG demonstrated when he went to Congress, he's willing to go try to abrogate the terms of that contract. So the ultimate battle for this union, and any union frankly, is in the halls of Congress and on Capitol Hill. So that's what our members need to be focused on, and that's what, coming out of this convention, that's what we need to be solid behind, to make sure that we're united, that when we go into November, that we elect the people who support working people and unelect those who do not.
While the main contract with the Postal Service took effect in 2010, agreements are still being negotiated for some APWU members. The Support Services Division is bargaining on separate contracts covering Postal Service nurses and workers at the 4 Information Technology and Accounting Service Centers. Account Control Specialist Judy McCann says support service workers are hopeful.
We have a lot of issues going on right now, and we're hoping to get some of them resolved. Currently, our contract, we still do not have a contract. That's been 19 months since ours expired. And we've been meeting with our director today at our conference, and we have a promise that after the nurses' contract can get settled, then we should be next up, and if not, we'll take the necessary steps to get ours heard.
The nurses' contract expired on August 10th this year, and we have an extension to August 31st. We're hoping that we can get the Postal Service to sit down and really negotiate a good contract, get it signed, sealed, and delivered. The ITASC contract expired January of 2011, and those employees are up in arms. They've worked 1.5 years without a collective bargaining agreement. Their grievance procedures still exist, but they have not seen any improvements in wages, hours, or working conditions. We expect that contract to mirror the APWU national agreement as far as economics. Those employees pay dues. They're hardworking employees. Most of them have worked 10, 20, 30, 40 years, some of them for the Postal Service. We need a contract. It's my responsibility to get it. Everybody wants a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, but it's not going to continue unless we have the political climate. So it makes this November critical to each and every postal, and more than that, federal and government worker, whether you're a fireman or a policeman or a teacher. Don't forget what happened in Wisconsin this year, and the time to really stop that and put everything back on the right track is in November.
Some of our fight included contacting our congressional representatives, our state legislator folks, our representatives in our towns. We went out to the big businesses. We walked the streets. We went to their business. We informed them what was going on. We walked shopping centers, grocery stores, stood out in front, handing them out. We walked the payments in neighborhoods and give them out postcards telling them what's going to happen. Most people were not aware of what was going on. We also connected it to the Postal Accountability Enhancement Act, tried to educate the public on that, to tell them, you know, what the real problem is with the Postal Service. It's not the faxing, it's not the email, it's not the electronic behavior that people have turned to. That doesn't help us, but that's not our problem. Our problem is the billions of dollars that are being paid into the pre-funding of healthcare, 75 years over a 10-year period. It's just too big for anybody to take on.
POWER, Post Office Women for Equal Rights, is the women's committee within the union. Members of POWER work to promote women's rights and advance the labor movement. Representative Maxine Waters of California was the special guest at the group's convention caucus, and she delivered a powerful message about the need for women to take charge.
I think what I'm going to do is do what my staff said please don't do. They told me to act nice. But that's difficult. And I tell you why. First of all, I'm in a room with postal workers whose jobs are threatened. I'm in a room with people who are being talked about on Capitol Hill in ways that makes us nervous. I'm in a room with people who are being talked about in terms of cuts, cuts, cuts. Do away with Saturday deliveries. Help to bring down and cut back on post offices all over this country. And so instead of dwelling on some of the issues that I prepared for, let's talk about the direction of this country. Which way, America? Which way, America? Is this going to be the America that we all dream of, that we have been socialized to believe is a real democracy that provides opportunity for all of its people, an America that cares about the least of these, who will provide a safety net for those who have no place else to go? Is this an America that will be really concerned about health care for all human beings? Or is this going to be the America of the Tea Party? We have a polarized Congress. It's been a tough 4 years for President Obama. We came out and we voted in large numbers in 2008, elected the first African American president in the history of the United States of America. And of course, many folks were extremely proud right here in this country, but all over the world, people began to look at the United States differently and say, you know, that really is a democracy where an African American can be elected to the President of the United States, and he's smart, he's articulate, he's competent, and he's capable. But we forgot in 2010. We thought we had done our work in 2008. We didn't get to the polls, and in came the Tea Party. And we lost control of the House of Representatives. And so they have blocked everything that this president has tried. And so we know what we've got to do. We've got to make the Congress of the United States look and act like Americans should. I don't care how powerful they're saying the Tea Party is, they do not represent America. And they're there to dismantle government, to cut, cut, cut. You know, when I see this Ryan budget, and he's the one that Mitt Romney has chosen to be the vice presidential candidate, but he is the architect and the author of the budget that could dismantle most of the programs and services that you have come to know in America. They don't believe in the right to bargain. They think you make too much money. They think you shouldn't have the pensions that you have. They say they're too expensive. They think that organized labor is a burden on the citizens of this country. And guess what? They have connected back with those who started this attack on organized labor when they attacked the air traffic controllers some years ago. Remember? And let me tell you, they keep coming in various ways. They would like to dismantle organized labor. As a matter of fact, not only as it relates to government, but those who are working in the private sector. They are focused on the richest 1% in America. They have gotten all of the tax breaks under the past administration, and this Ryan budget would protect those tax breaks. They do nothing for the middle class. They do nothing for the workers, the people who get up every morning and go to work, trying to earn a decent living, paying for a home, sending their kids to college, and I dare say maybe even have a vacation every now and then. But they don't care about you. What they're doing and what they're focused on is Wall Street, the too big to fail banks, and all of those folks who we know now who they are. And so we need legislators who are prepared to take this country back to where it should be. We're in some difficult times right now. I am not happy, and you can't be happy, that we have friends and neighbors and associates who are in this 8.3 unemployment, and that's the official. But when you go to some of these communities, it's 15, 25, and 30% unemployment. We've got to get this country back on track, and we can do this, but we've got to get some people out of the way. And guess what? We're all a part of the work that must be done. This is not a time when we can sit back and think somebody else is going to do it. This is not a time we can say, oh, well, you know, I don't think I can make it to the polls. Oh, I forgot to vote absentee. There can be no forgetting. There cannot be any saying someone else is going to take responsibility. We've got to do it. We've got to work, and we've got to work hard. The only thing that stands between them and America being what it could be, you and I. You and I. You and I. You and I. It's time to fight. It's time to use your power. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so very much.
Of course, every convention offers the opportunity for some fun and games, especially if you're a youngster in kiddie core childcare.
We had worked together with Jobs with Justice, the Oregon AFL-CIO, and Occupied Portland, and the letter carriers, and we had a rally in downtown Portland. Also, we marched to the Portland Post Office and occupied the post office with, I would say, 150 people. Went through the lines, and this was about 30 minutes before closing, and everyone mailed a postcard, went up to the window and mailed the postcard. And after that was done, a few people continued to remain in the post office at closing. We were all outside doing our rally, Save the Post Office, Solidarity Forever. We had signs all along downtown Portland Street, marching up and down for about a block and back around, and 6 people inside the building would not leave, and finally they were arrested and put in the police van, and off they went. But it was our statement showing that we need to have service, because with cuts in service, people are going to be harmed by this, and it's a very strong movement. It was probably 20% postal workers, because a lot of them were working at that time because it was at 4 in the afternoon. But it was the community that came out and walked with us. That was who, it was Jobs with Justice. Everybody else just came, and the people that used that post office came out there. And we had flyers going out to the area so they could all know what was going on. This post office that we occupied, University Station, is probably 5 blocks away from Portland State College, Portland State University. So therefore, there's a lot of students that use that post office too. So it was a big statement. Students said this is where they pick up their care packages from their family. It's very important. We had an elderly couple that uses that post office to send their birthday presents to their grandkids. So it's you know, it's kind of everyday life, but there's special occasions where they really walk to that post office and need it. That post office is closing, and they're moving the carriers out to, I would say, about 5 miles away in another direction. And then the window service will soon be moved 5 blocks south of there, which will not be on a bus route for people who don't drive. There's a lot of people in the city that do not have cars and do not drive, and they access that, and including the students. So that was another reason to show what would happen if this post office closes. People want to keep their jobs, but they want to also have that service for the public. And that was the whole point of our Occupy the Post Office. Could this happen to my station in downtown Portland? Would this happen to me, and what would I do without my post office in my neighborhood? There was reaction with letters to the editor saying, we don't want our post office to close. You have to go out and be involved as a local. You have to have somebody within, at least one person in your local, whether that's your president, your vice president, a director of legislation, to be part of your labor council. If you have a central labor council in your area, belong to the AFL-CIO, go to those meetings. And then as you do that, you meet other union organizations. And then we've always been involved with Jobs with Justice. And then Occupy Portland, which we supported and went to their rally. So it's a give and take. So it's merely a phone call saying, we're doing this, can you come and help? Or they call us, we're doing this, will you come and help? So that's how it starts. You just have to be out there to communicate with them.